You came to watch this video for a reason, and I'd bet it's not because your life is going perfectly. Something keeps happening, a pattern you can't break, a reaction you regret, a version of yourself you can't seem to reach. What if the reason isn't willpower or discipline? What if you have just been handed the wrong map of your own mind? In this video, I'll show you number one, the three-layer model of the mind that Vedic thinkers mapped thousands of years ago, and why modern neuroscience is only now catching up. Number two, why self-sabotage isn't a character flaw. It's what happens when the wrong layer of your mind is running the show. Number three, the one faculty that can override reactive patterns in real time, and the daily practice that trains it, even if you have tried everything else and stayed stuck. Let's get into it. A woman named Priya moved from Mumbai to Toronto in her late 20s. Brilliant, driven. By every external measure, she was doing fine. But she told me something that stopped me cold. She said, I used to think controlling your mind meant forcing myself to think positive, pushing away anything uncomfortable, and pretending I had everything figured out. She'd read the books, done the journaling, tried the breathing apps, and she was exhausted, not because the tools were wrong, because nobody had ever shown her the actual architecture of what she was working with. Somewhere around 400 BCE, a body of knowledge called the Bhagavad Gita described the human mind in a way that most psychology textbooks still haven't caught up to. It wasn't mystical hand-waving. It was a precise functional map, and it went like this. The outermost layer is the senses, not just sight and sound, but the entire intake system, everything your nervous system picks up from the world around you. The Gita calls this the Indriyas. These are the channels through which reality enters. The second layer is Manas. This is the processing mind, the part that takes sensory input and immediately starts reacting to it, liking, disliking, wanting, avoiding. Manas is fast, automatic, and almost entirely driven by past experience. It doesn't think, it responds. The third layer is Buddhi. This is higher intelligence, the part of you capable of discernment, of pausing before reacting, of choosing a response rather than firing one off. Buddhi is the prefrontal cortex in modern terms, the part of your brain that comes online when you deliberately reflect rather than just react. And then, above all three, there is what the Gita calls the Atmohan, the pure witness, the awareness that can observe the senses, observe the reactive mind, observe even the higher intelligence without being swallowed by any of them. Neuroscience arrived at a nearly identical structure through a completely different path. The reptilian brainstem handles survival and basic sensory processing. The limbic system, your emotional center, processes those signals and generates reactive emotional responses. The prefrontal cortex handles deliberate higher order thinking, and metacognition, the ability to observe your own thinking, sits above all of it. The Gita named these layers. Neuroscience measured them. They're describing the same thing. But understanding this map isn't just intellectually interesting, it changes how you interpret every difficult moment you've ever had. Because most of us spend our entire lives operating out of manas, the reactive layer, and wondering why we keep getting the same results. The education system never taught you this, and that gap is expensive. A pattern I've seen dozens of times goes like this. Someone sets a goal they genuinely want, a healthier body, a better relationship, a business they've been dreaming about for years. They start strong. Then, somewhere around week 2 or 3, they blow it. They eat the thing they said they wouldn't. They pick the fight they promised themselves they'd avoid. They procrastinate on the exact task that matters most. And then comes the story. I'm not disciplined enough. I'm my own worst enemy. I just can't stop self-sabotaging. But that framing is wrong. And it makes the problem worse because it turns a mechanical issue into a moral one. Understanding your mind at the layer level changes this completely. When you're under stress, real stress, not just mild discomfort, your nervous system routes control downward, away from Buddhi, the prefrontal cortex, the deliberate thinking layer, and into Manas, the reactive layer, where decisions are made based on what's familiar, what's fast, and what has worked before, in a survival sense. This is not weakness, this is biology. The brain under threat conserves energy By outsourcing decisions to the most practiced layer. And if your most practiced layer is wired toward avoidance, toward comfort seeking, toward short term relief, that's what runs the show the moment pressure arrives. The Gita describes this in chapter 2. When the mind is agitated by the senses, it carries away wisdom the way a storm carries a boat off course. The boat isn't broken. The navigator didn't fail. The storm just took the wheel. So, what's actually happening when you self sabotage is this: a trigger fires, manas takes over, buddhi goes offline, and you act from the reactive layer every time with total consistency because that's what that layer does. The solution isn't to try harder, it's to train the transition, to build the capacity to shift from manas back to buddhi before the damage is done. And this is where the Vedic model gives you something modern pop psychology mostly skips. It doesn't just tell you that you have a reactive mind, it tells you there's a layer above it that's always available. You're not stuck in the storm, you can reach the witness. The practical implication: next time you catch yourself mid pattern, mid argument, mid binge, mid spiral, the question isn't, why am I like this? The question is, which layer am I in right now? And can I shift up? There's a capability described in the Gita that doesn't have a clean English translation. The closest word is viveka. It means discernment, but not the passive kind, active discernment. The trained capacity to see clearly in real time which layer of your mind is speaking. Viveka is buddhi in action. And what makes it different from willpower is this: willpower tries to overpower the reactive mind, Viveka steps outside it. Think about what happens in a high stakes moment. Your boss says something that lands wrong. Your partner uses a tone you recognize. A deadline appears that you've been avoiding. In that moment, the senses fire, Manas grabs the signal, and within milliseconds, you have an emotional response that feels like reality. Viveka is the pause between the signal and the response, not suppression, not positive thinking, a genuine moment of observation. I can feel this reaction forming. Which layer is this coming from? Is this Buddhi speaking, or is this Manas running a script from 10 years ago? The neuroscience equivalent is what researchers call metacognitive awareness, the ability to think about your own thinking in real time. Studies consistently show that people who can name their emotional state in the moment of experiencing it show significantly less reactivity than those who can't. Not because naming it suppresses it, because naming it activates the prefrontal cortex, buddhi, which can then actually evaluate what's happening. This is what the Gita was pointing at: not detachment as numbness, observation as power. The Vedic model adds one more layer that neuroscience is only beginning to touch: the idea that your mind is not just yours. The concept of satsang, being in the company of people whose minds are oriented toward clarity, toward truth, toward growth, is treated in Vedic tradition as a primary tool for training buddhi, not a supplement, a primary tool, because the individual mind is porous. It absorbs the field around it. Social neuroscience now has language for this: mirror neurons, co regulation, the documented phenomenon where nervous systems in close proximity begin to synchronize. Your capacity for buddhi, for higher order thinking, is partly a product of whose minds you're spending time in. This is the angle that almost nobody in the modern mind mastery space addresses. Every video, every course, every technique treats understanding your mind as a solo rewiring project. But the Vedic map always placed the individual mind inside a collective field. Your manas is shaped by the manas around you. Your buddhi is strengthened by proximity to other people operating from buddhi. So the practice has two parts. First, daily viveka training. Pick one moment each day, one reaction, one impulse, one automatic response, and just name it before you act on it. Not to stop it, not to judge it, just to observe which layer it's coming from. That single act, done consistently, begins to build the gap between stimulus and response that everything else depends on. Second, audit your satsang. Who are you spending the most time with? Not just physically, but mentally. Whose voices are running in your head? Whose reactions are you absorbing? The mind you're trying to train doesn't exist in isolation. It's being shaped right now by the field it's swimming in. Understanding your mind is not a one time insight. It's a daily practice of moving up the layers. That practice of auditing your layers in your field sounds straightforward, and for some people it is, once they see it clearly. But if you've been sitting with these ideas for a while, if you recognize the pattern, the reactive loop, the self sabotage, the sense that you can see the problem but can't seem to get above it, then what you probably need isn't another framework. You need someone to look at your specific situation with you. I do free one on one consultation calls, 15 to 30 minutes, no pitch, no agenda. We look at exactly where you're stuck, which layer is running things, what's keeping Booty offline, what your actual next step is. You walk away with a plan that's specific to you, whether we ever work together again or not. The link to book is in the description. It's free, it's personal, and it's the fastest way through a wall that reading and watching alone won't break. If this kind of thinking is useful to you, subscribe. This channel goes deeper into the Vedic neuroscience intersection every week. Tell me in the comments, when you catch yourself in a reactive moment, which layer do you think is usually running it? And have you ever found something that actually helped you shift out of it?